Welcome back, you friendly degenerates. My name is Eric Heater, your one-stop shop for all your fantasy football needs. I'm the host of the Heater Dynasty podcast, and today we're covering Week 10, the Main Slate, a 10-game slate that's shaping up to be a good one. But before we jump in too much into the top 5 matchups and all that good stuff, if you like this lineup builder tool and you want to have access to it, good news, it is for sale. Okay, so you can get it. I have a season access pass on my Patreon for $15. You'll get all the slates for the remaining season. Or if that's too much, that's too hard to swing right now, I get it, times are tough, you could do a $5 weekly access pass. Okay, so you can test it first. Week 10's up there right now. You'll get the main slate, you'll get the international game in Berlin, you'll get a Sunday night football slate, you'll get a Monday night football slate, all for $5. If you like it, there's a promo code in there. That $5 will apply to the season access pass. You'll just have to pay the remaining $10, and you'll have access for the rest of the season. It's also available on Etsy, so also $15 there. One other thing I wanted to talk about before we get back to the actual stuff you care about is I have a website, heaterdynasty.com. I'd love for you to go check it out. I've got my projections, my rankings, all that stuff up there, articles. But yeah, follow me over there, subscribe, all that good stuff. Infomercial over. All right, so let's jump back into this slate. There's some big numbers at the top of this. The top game that we're looking at is the Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins. It's a 50.5 over-under, a minus 9.5 point spread. And just like Vegas, I think the Bills are going to roll in this one. Specifically, Josh Allen. He loves to torch the Dolphins, and they just sold all their best players at the trade deadline, so they're mailing in for the rest of the season. So yeah, this is a great spot for Josh Allen and some other players, which we will talk about. The next game we're going to be looking at, the Detroit Lions versus the Commanders. It's a 49.5 point over-under and minus 8.5 point spread. And I don't know which is going to be more embarrassing for my Commanders, what the Lions do to them, or the fact that the President of the United States is going to be sitting and watching in their owner's booth. So that's happening. Yeah, the next game would be also a 49.5 point over-under, a minus 5.5 point spread. It's the Rams versus the 49ers. This is a rematch this second time this year. We saw this already on Thursday Night Football. We saw the 49ers dismantle the Rams. But the question is, can Kyle Shanahan do it again? Or will Sean McVay have a little bit more pride and have a game plan to stop those quick action passes out of Mac Jones? We will see. I lean that I think the Rams get it done this time. Next game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the red-hot New England Patriots. It's going to be a 48.5 point over-under, minus 2.5 point spread, favoring the Buccaneers. Both of these teams have great rush defenses. I don't think either team's going to be able to run the ball very well. Both teams have injuries in their running back room, so this could be a very pass-heavy game. It's going to be something that we'll be talking about. And then lastly, the Baltimore Ravens and the Minnesota Vikings. It's a 48.5 point over-under, minus 3.5 point spread, favoring the Ravens. And the Ravens are finally healthy, and Minnesota has J.J. McCarthy now back at quarterback, so this could be very interesting. They just beat the Packers last week on the back of their defense. Can they do it again? We will see. I don't think so. I think the Ravens handle business this week. But that's kind of the overview of the slate, the ones that we'll be looking at. These games are all highlighted, so they stick out in the player pool here. But let's kind of break this down by position. I've already gone through and handpicked my player pool, which you'd be able to do as well if you get access to this tool. But that just creates it a pared down list right over here. Makes it a little easier to digest. But what we're going to do, like we always do, we're going to start with the top positional values and build my HDP top plays together. So if we look at quarterbacks first, this slate looks like it's going to be a slate where you're going to either pay down at quarterback or pay up. So there's two really good high-priced options and, in my mind, two good low-priced options, at least for cash. There's a ton of different options that we're going to talk about for GPPs and tournaments, but for cash, I think you got 4 quarterbacks that we're going to look at. So my top choice is Jackson Dart. He is only 5,700. He has been doing really well with, now that even though Scatterboo is out, he's been taking on a lot of the running game himself. He's rushing for nearly 30 yards a game. He's scored in his last 4 matchups on the ground, so there's definitely points to be had regardless of how he's actually playing. As a quarterback, fantasy-wise, he's doing extremely well and getting his points. He's the highest value on the slate, and at 0.56 fantasy points per dropback, he's definitely a viable option for cash. However, if you need even more savings, the other cheap option this week, in my mind, is Jacoby Brissett. He is filling in for Kyler Murray, but honestly has looked way better than Kyler did all season and just got named the starter. So he'll be taking on, unfortunately, the Seattle Seahawks, who are a pretty stout defense. So that is the one knock here. However, he has been playing really well. He's only $4,600, so he doesn't have to do as much to meet his price tag. If you are looking to pay up, Josh Allen, which we talked about, he's in the best games script of the week, and he will definitely be expensive. He is $7,000, most expensive quarterback on the slate, but for good reason. He's rushing for 35 yards per game. He's got a value of 3.41, 0.66 fantasy points per dropback, which is really good, but not as good as the next guy, who is Lamar Jackson. Slightly cheaper and slightly more interesting for me as a top play this week, because he's at 0.75 fantasy points per dropback, and you can save a little bit of salary here, and is the highest projection on the slate for quarterback. So I don't know why I listed him that way. I think it's just because of the way I wrote my notes. So we'll put Lamar first, Josh Allen second. Not that it really matters. But yes, so those are my quarterback top plays of the week. At running back, we are going to have to pay a little bit more than we did last week. We got spoiled with those really cheap options, and we might see that those cheap options are still there, but I don't think it's where we want to go this week. So in my mind, the top option is Devon Achane. In that same matchup with the Bills and the Dolphins, Devon Achane is one of the last guys standing. Him and Jalen Waddle are really all that's left there. And so he's going to get a ton of work. He's got a 3.8 weighted opportunity, which means that he's receiving a ton of both the rushing attempts and the targets for the games. He's getting nearly 13.5 targets or attempts, rushing attempts a game, nearly 7 targets a game, and totaling almost 100 yards every single game. So he is a solid option, definitely in a full PPR site like DraftKings. Devon Achane is locked in as one of my running backs this week in cash. Rico Dowdle is also locked in because he just got named the starter. He got 73% of the snaps last week, and this week his salary did go up. He's at $6,300, but his attempts, he's getting 14.5 attempts a game, nearly 2 targets a game, same thing, about 100 yards on the ground. He's averaged 170 yards these last 3 games. You got to roll with it. He's playing the lowly Saints. I don't think I need to say anything else. Those 2 are locked in. The next one on my list, though, this one's really hard to get to in cash because of the wide receivers we're going to be talking about. It's a very strong upper class of wide receivers this week. But if you somehow figure it out and you can get Christian McCaffrey, goodness, that's tough to say. If you can get Christian McCaffrey in your lineup, you should. He's expensive, but well worth it. He's $9,000 this week. Definitely going to be getting to him in tournaments with some alternative builds, but I'm not sure that I can get to him in cash. Then the last person that I would mention here is Derrick Henry. So if you don't go with Lamar Jackson up top, I think Derrick Henry is a good pivot point because it's basically saying in the game script that the Ravens are taking care of business. They are handing the ball off to Derrick Henry, and the Vikings are just they're in a negative game script where the Ravens are just controlling the ball and controlling the game. So that's an option. Some names that I would mention, some honorable mentions. I think there's a ton of good other points, other pivot points. We've got Quinshon Judkins, we've got Jahmyr Gibbs, we've got James Cook, and then David Montgomery is only 5,000. So he's someone, if you needed to throw somebody in there, he's going up against the Commanders. They haven't been able to stop anybody in anything this year. I think he definitely has the potential for a game that's out of control, running some touchdowns and getting some late extra rushing attempts in late game as they're just bleeding the clock. So those would be all the names that I mentioned. All right, so I think that the wide receivers are what are going to either make or break your slate this week. There are a lot of high-priced options, and we're probably guaranteed to pick the wrong one, but we've got to give it a shot. So the top 3 options on this list, you'll see we've got a couple cheap price guys as far as value are concerned at the top, but the names that we are going to have to choose between are Jackson Smith and Jigba, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Puka Nacua. So I know you see Puka Nacua all the way down here, but honestly, he is my top option because I do think that that is the best game script. I think there's going to be a lot more. He's going to get pushed more, and I think the Rams need him more than the other two need their guys. So Puka is the top option. The next one would be Jackson Smith and Jigga, just because he is the entire offense of the Seattle Seahawks right now. And then after him would be Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I think Amon-Ra is going to get his, but like I said, I think the Commanders aren't going to put much of a fight. I hope I'm wrong as a Commanders fan, but I just think that this game is unfortunately going to be a disaster, and we are going to talk more about some Lions onslaught builds at the end of this video. But yes, these would be my top 3. I think you can get 2. Not comfortably, but you can get 2. You definitely need to have at least one of these 3. If you don't, you're making a mistake. After them, let's see my list here. We got a couple cheaper options that you're going to need in order to fit everything in. So I think Zay Flowers is an excellent choice. I think he's $5,900 this week. The other cheap options would be Wan'Dale Robinson. Oh, why is it so hard to spell? There we go. Wan'Dale Robinson for the Giants. So if we look here, he is getting nearly 7.5 targets a game. He is someone that Jackson Dart definitely trusts now that Malik Neighbors is out. He's getting 23% of the target share, and he's only 5,300. But you'll see at the top here, the other cheap name, Olamide Zaccheaus, 3,600. He is a target that Caleb Williams really likes. I know Luther Burden is supposed to probably be back this week, but he is still seeing a ton of targets even with Luther in there. He had 18.1% for the season. Last week he had it even higher. He's averaging almost 5 points or 5 targets a game. So I'm going to put him in there. You're going to need salary savings somewhere. I definitely think he's a piece that will open up other pieces for you. Not super sexy or flashy, but there. The next option would be Jameson Williams. I don't know that I can go there in cash, but I definitely see him getting a couple long bombs against the Commanders this week. So definitely a good GPP option. Another one will be Rome Odunze. For the Bears, I think he's due for a good game. And the Bears, they are going to be playing the Giants. The Giants do not have a great secondary right now and have a lot of injuries back there. So definitely a good game that we think is going to be a back and forth game. A good option for you. Another cheap name we have is Tez Johnson. Let's go see exactly what he's priced. He's in the 4,000s. I know that. But let's see here. Tez Johnson, 4,500. And he has been a great fill-in as the injuries keep piling up for the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield's going to need to throw to someone else other than just Emeka Egbuka. And he has been the one that seems to be the main target there, so 4,500. However, the last name we're going to throw in here is Emeka Egbuka. He should be back for this game, and he is the main target there, and he is at 7,000. So definitely can fit him in. You just need to get a little creative. Tight ends. This is one where I think this slate we're going to have to pay down, or if you can make it fit, your best option is Trey McBride. Definitely if you're running with Jacoby Brissett at the top, Trey McBride has been his favorite target. He's getting a ton of red zone looks. Let's look here, give some actual stats, not just my narrative here. So he's 6K. He's got nearly 29% of the target share, getting 9 targets a game. He's receiving nearly 60 yards per game, and he's gotten in the end zone the last 3 games. So Trey McBride is a huge opportunity there, but he is 6K, so it's going to be hard to fit him in. If you need to go down, I think your best price-friendly option is Hunter Henry. And an alternative, though, that I don't think is going to be, it's going to be a little bit more of a sleeper pick this week. I don't think a lot of people are looking to him. Based on roster percentage projection so far, he's only 6%. Dalton Kincaid, okay? So Dalton Kincaid, yes, he's a little more expensive than Hunter Henry, but I think he is becoming the first read option for Josh Allen. And in a game where we think Josh Allen's about to cook, he is definitely someone I'm interested in. Maybe more tournaments, but definitely there. And then the last name that I would mention would be Mark Andrews, okay? So basically you can kind of pair these with a lot of the different quarterbacks, whichever quarterback you're running with, or you can just play them on their own. They're all good options. For defense this week, the Jaguars are my first choice, just based on the matchup and the price point. So 2,600, you can save a little bit more. The Browns are better price or better value, but a higher price. So if you can fit it in, great. But I think pricing is a premium this week. You're going to have to really be careful with how you spend your money, and I think defense is the last place that I put everything in. So Jaguars, Browns, those are definitely my first 2 choices. It's, like I said, whatever fits, you make work. Texans would be next. Buccaneers. And then lastly, the Ravens. My top leverage plays of the week. So like we said with the tight ends, Dalton Kincaid is definitely someone that I would be leveraging off of Trey McBride or Hunter Henry in tournaments. Another option, though, would be Cade Otton, which is Baker Mayfield's tight end. He always seems to fill in very well when they are short wide receivers, which they are right now. The next person that I would mention would be, this is where I wanted to throw in Quinshon Judkins. I think he is a very solid option this week. They're playing the Jets, and I think we've seen when the Browns are able to control the ball on the ground, they love to, and I think they can easily control the game against the Jets. Just run the ball down their throat. Quinshon Judkins could be in for a huge game. And then my last one, I already mentioned Derrick Henry. So who do I want to throw in here? I guess I'd throw in David Montgomery. I think he's a solid leverage play at 5K. All right, and top dart throws of the week. I've got Demario Douglas, or Pop Douglas, whatever you want to call him, of the New England Patriots. We're going to be talking about Drake May a little bit when we build some lineups. Demario has become one of his favorite targets now that Kayshon Boutte is out. So as long as Kayshon Boutte is out for this week, let's look that up. I don't know for a fact. He's been ruled out. Okay, so that's easy. Kayshon's out. Definitely, I think Demario Douglas is a great target there. He's not very expensive. What is he priced? Yeah. Let's check it out. Demario. Where are you? There you are. Oh, 4K. Yeah, absolutely. So, I know I should have trusted my notes. So, he's a great dart throw opportunity. I also think Rashad Bateman for the Ravens is a great option if you're doing Lamar stacks. And then the last one I said was Olamide Zaccheaus. I think he is someone that you can play in cash, but will also open up opportunities in whatever slate format you are building for. But yes, so that's my top plays. Next thing I want to do is just build a couple lineups with you. This week I tried to save a little time and I put some in ahead of time so we can just talk through them. But here are two cash builds that I went with. I don't know that I'm actually going to go with it. They're my first builds, but I just wanted to plug in the value plays that we were talking about. So let's say you started with Jacoby Brissett at top, saved some salary. You're able to slide in Devon Achane, Rico Dowdle, Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I put in Olamide Zaccheaus. I ran with Hunter Henry, Tez Johnson, Jaguars. Okay? I don't really love it. It's the first read, but as you can see, it's going to be hard to fit in. Like, I can't fit in Christian McCaffrey there. If you're trying to fit in both of these stud wide receivers, Puka and Jackson, Smith and Jigba, it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. You're going to have to punt a couple different times. I'm not sure I'm comfortable punting that many times. So, I also tried one where I built with an expensive quarterback. So I went with Josh Allen. You can also slide in Rico Dowdle, Devon Achane. I only was able to get one of the stud wide receivers. I went with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Olamide Zaccheaus, Zay Flowers. A little bit more salary savings, but I still think a solid option. Hunter Henry again. And then I threw in, this was a 3 running back build, David Montgomery, and the Browns defense. So that's a couple things I thought of. If you wanted to switch it out, we could, let's see what happens. We do the Jaguars here. Get off of Amon-Ra. You'll be able to get any of the other guys that you want. Yeah, so you could get Jackson Smith, or you could get Puka Nacua. Totally up to you. I kind of like Amon-Ra with this build, though with that, I might want to get off David Montgomery. Maybe we go somewhere else. I don't know. Like I said, these are just initial builds just to kind of give you a sense of some of the constraints that you're going to have trying to build this week. So, just play around with it, see how you can fit different people. If you can get one where you can fit in Christian McCaffrey, that would be pretty cool. Hey, let's try it. Okay. I talked myself into it. So Jackson Dart. We're going to do Christian McCaffrey. Let's try to get all 3 of those running backs. Rico Dowdle, and then in the flex, we'll throw Devon Achane. We got to try to get one of these studs. It's going to be hard, but let's go with the cheapest one just to see what happens. So Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're going to throw in Olamide Zaccheaus. Maybe Tez Johnson. What do we think about that? Who's the 4K guy we were talking about? Oh, Demario Douglas. Let's try that. Let's try Demario Douglas instead. See if that gives us a little bit more savings. We'll throw in Hunter Henry. And then what do we have left? Oh, 2,100. This is so tight. So are there any defense? I don't think there's any defense down there that we're even remotely interested in. Okay, so that's going to be a little tough. What could we change? Okay, so what if we switch it out? I don't want to do it, but we get off of Rico. Let's say we went David Montgomery. I don't want both lines in there, though they'll both probably be just fine. But because of that, we'll go Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then, oh yeah, that gives us a lot more salary then. So then we can do whatever we want on defense. So we'll go Browns. Where is it? There it is. Browns. And then you got 300 left if you really wanted to pivot off of somebody else, but it's just, that's a starting place. Oh, so then, well, we could go Tez Johnson. and then we could just go Jaguars. So, I don't know, some different options. I'm not super comfortable with any of these yet, but I think that's helpful just to see where we're at. Before we log off here, let's talk through some GPP lineup stacks that I think are interesting. I was telling you at the beginning, a Detroit Lions onslaught I think is huge, and I mean like everybody. Don't even bring a bring back. If you want to bring back, you could do maybe Zach Ertz or Deebo Samuel, but otherwise, just stay away from the Commanders this week, okay? I hope I'm wrong, but I'm afraid that I'm not. So, Jared Goff, give him Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, anyone you want. Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, all of them are viable, but just play around with those, do some onslaught stacks. If you're having Jared Goff up the top, he's always distributing the ball well, and it's usually because he's throwing many passing touchdowns. So I would have at least 2 players with him. Even 3 is fine. If you're doing a Josh Allen stack, I would say do it a little differently. I think a skinny stack is better. Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid, that's what I'm going with, and a Devon Achane bring back, and then fill it in with some other options. I think that's great. Another stacking spot to start would be Drake May, with Demario Douglas and Hunter Henry. And then bringing it back with Emeka Egbuka. I think that's an interesting opportunity there. The one that I don't want to avoid this week, I think is sneaky but really good. Sam Darnold has been incredible, and he keeps getting disrespected. He's 5,800. Both of these guys, 64, 5,800. They're being disrespected. They're going to fall through the cracks based on how everyone else is priced this week. But Sam Darnold with Jackson Smith and Jigba, you could do Torrey Horton, and then bring it back with Trey McBride. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Didn't they just get somebody, though? Didn't they just trade for somebody? I'm blanking right now. My mind is not working very well. However, you will probably know, and you're probably like screaming at me through your phone or whatever. But I'm just thinking Sam Darnold, similar to Drake May or Jared Goff, you're going to want 2 pass catchers. So either throw in one of the tight ends with him or another receiver. I think that's very viable. And then lastly, Lamar Jackson. I think it's going to be a big game for them. They need to win if they want any offseason hopes. And I think they're finally healthy. So I like this idea of like doing a Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews build. Bringing it back with Jordan Addison or Justin Jefferson if you wanted to spend up, that's fine. But I was just thinking a little bit of salary savings here. But I think it's going to be a balanced game script for them. I think Lamar Jackson's going to throw a bunch of touchdowns, and they're going to run it down their throat. That's the kind of script that I'm looking at here. And then the last person, since we can't leave him off, would be Baker Mayfield. I would give him both Emeka Egbuka. Maybe then throw in Cade Otton. Something like that. And then bring it back with Demario Douglas. I don't know. It's just a thought. I think that game's going to be very interesting and has the real potential to shoot out and be a passing game frenzy. But anyway, I hope this is helpful for you. I love if you leave me some comments or feedback or anything like that. Feel free to do that in the comments. I'd love to respond and hear what you're thinking. But otherwise, good luck this week. Hopefully we can definitely win in cash and maybe bring home a tournament. So until next time.